Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since I've done a book review, but I've got one for you today. Today is St. Patrick's Day. I'm very excited because I am Irish, as you can tell, for the most part. I am going to be reviewing the book, which is new, and I may or may not be the first to do this, so we're just going to get right to it. I don't have it on a paperback format. It's on my Kindle, so we're going to be looking at The Witch's Name by Faerywolf. Now, I've read a few books by Storm, and I really loved his writing concept, especially in this book. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. Okay, so let's talk about The Witch's Name by Faerywolf. Now, this is a book on magical power and how you can discover your own witch's name. In some cases, it could be brought forth to you by a coven, such as by a high priest or high priestess, if you belong to a coven. Otherwise, you can also name yourself as a solitary witch. He goes into a lot of detail about his personal experience on how he gave himself or was given the name Stormfaerywolf. And it's based on the introduction in the book, which I found it to be quite captivating because I know of Stormfaerywolf, but I don't know of him that well to understand where he comes from as far as his name is concerned. So it's a really interesting little story that he has in the beginning for the introduction. And this book is something I would recommend not only for beginner practitioners, but anyone who's interested in finding out or even just working with or changing your magical name or even changing your primary name, your birth-given name, which is something that he discusses in this book as well. Sometimes, such as myself, when I was given my name, I didn't like it. From a very early age of probably 10 years old. I was not a fan of it for some reason. I just didn't care for it. I had asked my mother and my father why they gave me that name, and they gave me their reasoning for it, and meh. Some people feel that way about their name. You might be included in this, but again, it just depends. It depends on everybody on a personal level, whether they feel attached to their name or not. For very personal reasons, I am not attached to my last name. I absolutely cannot stand that name for personal reasons. And it had to do with my upbringing in my childhood and also from recent events from when I turned 40 a few years ago. So I've been looking to change my name, and it's kind of funny that I decided to read this book because it's come up several times in my life where I felt like I wanted to or needed to do this. So, where do you get your name from? That's something he goes into, obviously. Otherwise, he would not have chosen his own. I'm reading notes, by the way. It can come from real historical, fiction, non-fiction, mundane, or magical aspects of where your name can come from. Now, even Storm said that when he first started using his name publicly and he changed his name legally to Stormfaerywolf, he felt kind of silly, or he felt like it was out of place and people looked at him kind of weird, and he felt funny about using it. But as he goes on the book and says several times, that's okay, this is normal. it's not a normal thing that you're doing. Not everybody changes their name because they feel they need to, or because they have a reason to, one way or the other. Now, he says also in the book that you could use your name for private reasons, magical reasons, or you could do what he did, is take the entire name and go public and have it changed legally, which is something I'm looking to do, possibly, depending on how my husband feels about it. So we'll see. He also explains how in history, people from many different cultures choose a different or magical name once they realize that they are able to, or have a strong desire in wanting to change it. And what this does, it creates a magical identity. For example, if you keep it to where you are only using it when you're performing magic or when you're in ritual, you could use that name towards the gods, goddesses, and other celestial beings that you are praying to, or that you are giving to, so to speak. So that's something you have to consider as well. Now, at the end of the book, Storm does mention that he uses or has 3 different names. First is his given name, his birth given name. The second one, which is his public name, but he also has a third one, and the third one he just uses for ritual practice. And that's something I found fascinating, because I didn't think of changing your name publicly and then using an additional magical name for your practice only. That's interesting. I never thought about that. But the way that you would get the name, or the way that he describes that you should ponder over getting your name, is certain exercises in this book. By the way, this book has journal prompts, it has exercises, journal entries, there's art that you can do or should be followed, but there are 23 different exercises, prompts, and other journal entries that you are able to look forward to doing within this book, and it all makes perfect sense. Now, as we all know with Stormfaerywolf, if you read any of other books, he always says, make sure you do this exercise this many times for this amount of time before you move on to the next. That's also pretty popular in Matt Oren's Psychic Witch book as well. So either your magical name or your magical identity could be brought to you in a sense of what you love. And he tells you to make lists and pros and cons and so on and so forth about what you want to be called, what you associate with, what you feel power in, what words and what things make you feel magical and powerful. He mentions to use divination and also take advantage of your dreams and have a small dream journal alongside of your bed with a pen. So when you wake up in the morning, or if you wake up in the middle of the night, you can write down bits and pieces, even if they're just words, to remind you about the dream. That way, when you look at those notes again, and if you're going to create a journal prompt from your dream journal, you can go ahead and do so because you're reminded of what you actually dreamt about. So that's important as well. Divination, he was talking about if you use a pendulum, tarot cards, oracle cards, so on and so forth, wherever you feel comfortable as far as divination is concerned, to use that as well. There is an exercise in here we use as tarot cards, and I believe there was 9 cards in this exercise that you would lay out in a way that he shows you in the book, and then you would take a coin, and the coin, you would hold it on its side and spin it, and if the coin landed on, I think it was card number 4 and card number 1, either one of those, it means check back later and do the divination exercise again at a later time. So there's a lot of information in this tiny book, and the book is rather small. I read it in 3 days, sorry. But it's full of information, and it's full of logical reasoning, which is something I was looking forward to reading about in his book, about these exercises and about how you come up with your magical name. Now, I recently and unfortunately lost a magical friend. You may or may not know of her. Excuse me. Her name was Cirrus, and she was actually a psychic from the Netherlands. And I got to know her on a personal level, and she is the one who tested me and certified me as a psychic back in 2014? 2015, one of the two. But we kept in contact with each other, and unfortunately, we lost her to COVID a couple months ago. And that's very unfortunate because I was very close to her, and she was kind of my mentor in this whole journey, because the minute that she met me, she's like, "You're psychic, I need to test you." I'm like, "Oh, okay." That's not the first time somebody told me, but oh, okay. So she was the first one that tested me. But anyway, going from that point in my life into picking a magical name, she did the work and she picked one for me. Now, I did not write that name down, and it was a very long and, I don't want to say strange, but just a very long non-English name. It could have been some other languages or some other language or languages, like I just said. But she told me years ago, and I never wrote it down, and I forgot what it was. So, unfortunately, I have not been able to contact her for the reasons that she passed. And, bless her on her journey is all I can say, and I hope to see her again. But, going back into what Storm talks about and how to acknowledge and also get to know your magical name and find out from resources and even from nature what is your magical name. He goes into things about how you could pick stones, or you could pick people that you admire greatly. I've been working on one for the past 24 hours or so, but I haven't really made any decisions yet because I haven't really put the work into it yet based on his exercise, which I'm going to do, and I might be doing videos on those. Let me know in the comments if you want me to do his exercises one by one and post them here on YouTube, or even on Instagram if you follow me on Instagram. But one of the most interesting ways to help your magical name grow after you decide what it is through sigils. Now, I love sigils. I really do. I use them as much as I possibly can because I love art and I love symbolism. So that works for me. But there's another way, and I never really thought about this until Storm mentioned it, and I think it's genius, but it's so logical. You plant a pinto bean and you write your magical name on a piece of paper in the center, and on this torn piece of paper you also write down symbolism and pictures and doodles and other words that represent your magical name, and you put it in a terracotta pot, you fill it with soil, and you take 2 pinto beans and you plant them eye facing down. You water it an inch over the soil, and then you watch it grow. And that grows your name. And I think that is just so normal, so natural, and I wonder how many times that's been overlooked because I never would have thought about doing that. I would have been sitting with candles every single day, doing my chants, so on and so forth. Oh my god, have to do this, have to do that. But that is actual growth of something. So you're actually growing yourself into the person that you want to be. That's amazing. And again, it's very logical. There's so much in this book that it's actually fun to read. And because he brings a lot about history into the picture of how you would create, or pick rather, certain names or words to create your magical name, I love it. It's me. I love history, as everybody knows on this channel. But anyway, I want to keep this video a little bit shorter, so I'm going to cut off now. But if you like this video, please go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and click on like. Share it if you like to other people who might be interested in watching it. And certainly I appreciate you. And I will see you in the next video. Take care now. Bye.